Aston Martin will be counting the days until Adrian Newey begins his new role as managing technical partner on Monday the 3rd of March. The F1 design virtuoso left Red Bull last year after his relationship with Christian Horner broke down amid a tumultuous time for the team. Everyone is expecting his impact and the impact of the new factory at Silverstone to be felt in 2026, but Fernando Alonso has hinted that the impact could be felt sooner. Lance Stroll has also cracked, hitting back at the rumours swirling around his future in Formula 1 as the ties between Verstappen and Aston Martin grow. Today, I'll cover it all, so don't go anywhere. Aston Martin, along with the rest of the grid, revealed their 2025 livery in London on Tuesday. They decided for the Red Bull approach this year, making changes so unnoticeable that the side-by-side of last year's car and this year's car looks like a spot the difference from a child's puzzle book. The black has moved up the car a bit, and there is a snazzy white Marden sponsorship splash on the airbox, but that's basically it. As far as I'm concerned, any reduction in the amount of that metallic green on the car is a downgrade. Bring back the time of brightly coloured F1 liveries, I say. Anyway, while the livery is a downgrade on last year's, the team personnel is certainly an upgrade. The imminent arrival of Adrian Newey at Silverstone to help the team in their push to become F1's next dominant force in 2026 is exciting, but they still have an entire season to race first, and in terms of personnel, not much has really changed for 2025. The car is still going to be driven by Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso in what many fans consider one of the biggest mismatches of ability on the grid. Stroll finished 2024 in 13th position behind a Haas, a V-Carb and an Alpine, and never looked like threatening the top 10 in the second half of the season. His beaching in the gravel on the formation lap in Brazil was a massive blunder and probably the most memorable moment of his season. All said, he brought in roughly a third of the points of his two-time world champion teammate, a worse points ratio than Perez compared to Verstappen. The poor performances and general apathy toward Formula 1 led to many wondering if he actually wanted to be in the sport. His attitude was often compared to that of a child who has been dragged to football practice on a Sunday morning. If you don't know, there is a time-honoured tradition in the UK of forcing your young child to take up a winter sport which he played in as a child and have unfulfilled dreams of going pro in. Normally, that means standing in the driving rain on a field that is more mud than grass, watching your child reluctantly participate in some of the worst quality football ever witnessed while they catch the early stages of hypothermia, before hosing them down in the garden for 10 minutes to try and dislodge the metric ton of mud that is attached to them over the course of the game. For anyone from the UK watching, I'm sure you know all too well what I'm talking about. As Stroll has continued to fall short of his teammate, a number of rumours about his future have developed. Perhaps the most credible appeared last year, with Aston Martin getting a World Endurance Championship team up and running with their incredible sounding Valkyrie leading the charge in the hypercar category. Many thought that Stroll may make the move to that series instead of Formula 1. The competition in the WEC is still fierce, with a huge number of ex-F1 drivers holding seats in the hypercar category, but it is a baby step down from the accumulation of incredible talent that F1 attracts, meaning Lance may find more success. The rumour the year before was even stranger though. During the summer of 2023, a bizarre rumour gained traction that he could quit Aston Martin to pursue a tennis career instead. These rumours were references to a bold prediction from David Croft on an episode of the Sky F1 podcast. I have a little feeling that in about a year and a half's time, Lance Stroll will race his last race in Formula 1 and go and do something else, Croft said. I don't think Formula 1 is a sport he wanted to go into when he was younger. He was a massive tennis talent, one of the best youngsters in Canada at the time. I just wonder if he'll go off and find something that fulfills him more and brings him more excitement. I look at him sometimes and think, you want to be doing something else, don't you? It was a hilarious, if disrespectful prediction of Lance Stroll's future. To assume that after years of dedicating himself to motorsport, the 26-year-old Stroll could go and compete at the top level of tennis against pros who have spent their whole life training was ridiculous. But you could see where Crofty was coming from. Lance wasn't happy. Well, here we are a year and a half later, and unlike Crofty predicted, Lance is still here, and according to the Canadian driver, his tennis career was a non-starter. Speaking on the Fast and Curious podcast, Stroll said, "Be careful, don't believe everything you read. No, I'm really not that good at tennis. Someone came up with that. I don't really know how that started brewing. I mean, I always grew up playing a lot of sports for sure. They were saying like I was going to be on the ATP World Tennis Tour. Am I good enough to do that? No. While Lance is committed to the 2025 season, the rumours of his place in Formula One will continue forever. With Newey at the team and Honda arriving as an engine supplier, the team's competitive aspirations must eventually bring Lance's place into serious question. The rumoured replacement has always been Verstappen. With the seemingly limitless budget that the Saudi-backed Aston Martin team have, they can spend big on drivers with their salaries not included in the budget cap. With Red Bull's competitive stranglehold on the sport waning throughout 2024, there being serious concerns about the state of their engine project for 2026, and the Verstappen camp appearing to be unhappy with Christian Horner at times, there are valid questions over whether Max will want to continue with the team past the end of this season. In an interesting development this week, Verstappen has established a business relationship with Aston Martin. Verstappen.com Racing is set to launch a GT3 program in 2025, and the reigning world champion has picked the Aston Martin Vantage as his car of choice for the team. Now, it would be very easy to read far too much into this. Obviously, Red Bull don't have a car that he could use for the team anyway, but it is a working relationship and a sign that the two are talking. Max himself has been very clear that the arrangement is simply business for now, not that he would say if it was anything more than that anyway. The only contact I had with them was about GT3. There is not much to say really, but it is not me personally driving, and I am starting my own team for this year, so of course some things need to be in place. Before I talk about the interesting things that Fernando Alonso has had to say about his expectations for the team in 2025, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch all the news and analysis on pre-season testing next week, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to F1 Reverse. It really does help us out, so thank you very much. So the first few races of an F1 season have historically been very indicative of what the competitive order for the season will be. With no budget cap, teams could develop their cars as they wanted, meaning the top teams normally stayed on top through sheer force of money. With fewer races in a season as well, an early advantage was far harder to overturn. Last year proved that Formula One is changing though. Red Bull dominated the early races, but as the season progressed, McLaren took the ascendancy, with Ferrari and Mercedes also enjoying stints as the fastest team on the grid. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur has previously told the race that the competitive landscape is likely to be decided in the first few races of 2025. However, Alonso does not think that's the case. I feel that the Bahrain tests and the first races will be less relevant than usual. In the last 2 years, I've seen that during the season, said Alonso. Before, it seemed that starting the year well guaranteed you continuity, and in these last 2 years, we've seen radical changes in McLaren in 2023, in Mercedes last year, Haas. If the team hits the key in race 9, the season is so long that until race 24, there is a lot to solve. So I take it a little more calmly how to face the pre-season. This could be an indicator that Aston Martin are planning to spend at least the first quarter of the season focusing on the current regulations, rather than turning to 2026, which could get them some podiums, and maybe, just maybe, a race win for Alonso. Do you think Aston Martin could be a surprise package in 2025? And what do you think of the connections between Verstappen and Aston Martin? Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.